Folks, we are here at Community Missionary Baptist Church in Cedar Hill, Texas. Shortly, we're about to begin our town hall with Texas State Representative Jasmine Crockett, who is trying to win the Democratic nomination runoff to succeed Congresswoman Bernice Johnson in Congress. She has represented this district for quite some time. Congressional District, 700,000 people all across the country. Of course, this district not just here in Cedar Hill, but it stretches from here all across the Metroplex, even through Irving. And so Bernice Johnson, she has actually endorsed Jasmine Crockett. Tomorrow on our show, we talked with Jane Hamilton, who is her opponent in this runoff. Early voting is taking place right now in this state for these runoffs. As you see, my sticker, oops, my bad. I did vote earlier. Okay, all the people who are here, who's already voted? Who's already voted? All right, let's see here. Keep your hand up. All right, so about half the room is already voted, and so other folks have not. And so what we're seeing, of course, final efforts. Folks are going door to door. You see the campaigning. You're seeing commercials still being run. All of those things that are happening all across the area in the final stages of this campaign. As I said earlier, primaries are happening all across the country in different states. Last night, Kentucky, Idaho, North Carolina. You also saw Pennsylvania, Oregon, all those states. People went to the polls last night in the Democratic and Republican primaries. And then, of course, every single week you're actually seeing that. You have places like in Florida and Louisiana where their primaries are like Florida, their primary is in August. And then you have the general election taking place in November. And so Texas, though, the primary actually was in, what was it, March? Was it March? And then, of course, the runoff for those contested races. This is not the only contested race. There were a number of positions that were still contested. And so any runoff around the state will take place on Tuesday. Today, of course, is Wednesday. Early voting ends on Friday. There's no early voting on Sunday because, you know, Republicans didn't want people voting on weekends, especially when it comes to souls to the polls on Sunday. So that is what is happening here. And so look forward to this conversation. Got a few questions for Jasmine Crockett. His audience has some questions as well. Let me throw this out. Let's see here. Anthony, one of y'all switching? One of you switching. And so we'll bring this up. So let's see here. Show of hands. I'll ask this first. Economy, is it the most important issue? Raise your hand. Okay. Education. Oh, first of all, he goes, okay, all right. He raised his hand. He's like, yeah, okay. So, okay, education. All right. Let's see here. Voter suppression. And you can vote more than one time. It's okay. It's okay. All right. Let's see here. All right. Voter suppression. Got it. Let's see. Let's see here. Housing. Okay. How many people here are homeowners? How many folks are renting? Homeowners first. Most of the folks in here are homeowners. All right, then. Renting. Got it. All right. Let's see. Student loan debt. Okay. All right. She got both hands up. Okay. Either you have the debt or you got a kid in school. Oh, it's your debt. It's your debt. Got it. Matter of fact, I saw a tweet today from a guy who he took out 75,000 student loans. He's paid back 179,000, but he still owes 200,000 because of interest. And he said, "That's it." He said, "Y'all ain't getting no more." He said, "I'm just gonna die owing y'all." I mean, he literally said, "He said I'm not sending any more money." He said, "That's it." He said, "So y'all can do what y'all want to do, but I've been paying way too long. It's not gonna happen." So I thought that was really interesting. Let's see here. Transportation. All right, got one person over there. Let's see. Economic development. All right, let's see here. Cedar Hill. Okay, so of the folks in here, what areas of the district do you live in? So how many people in here are Cedar Hill? DeSoto, Lancaster, Duncanville, Grand Prairie, Irving, Dallas. Okay, all right then. All right. Good cross-section of folks in the room. All right then, let's see here. Where they at? They told the brother 5 minutes. I'm like, okay, it's been 5 minutes. Tell them, let's go. It's 7:22. You know I think they probably doing? They probably doing like these old black churches where y'all were going to the event where it is whole walk-in. Man, let me tell you something. I was a keynote speaker at an Eastern Star event. Man, first of all, you know it was something when they had corsages and boutonnieres. And they insisted on me wearing that boutonniere. Now, y'all have to understand, my grandmother had a catering business. So we used to do that. I hate wearing boutonnieres. Okay, first of all, why is it called a boutonniere? It's a flower. That's all it is. It's a flower with a leaf behind with some green tape at the bottom. That's all it is. They insisted, and I refused to wear it. I said, nope, I'm not wearing it. And so they had a whole march in. I'm talking about we had to line up. No, you have to stand here. I was like, y'all, can we just go sit down? They had this entire elaborate march in. I was like, man, I almost just went and sat down and said, man, y'all come on up. So I think that's probably what they're doing back there. They got some kind of like elaborate, like everybody line up. They probably got some music, something like that. I don't know what it is. But tell them, come on, because we ain't trying to be here all night. Y'all got to get to the crib, folks. Now, how many people came straight from work to come to the town hall? 3 of y'all. Okay, cool. Everybody else like, we work at home. Yeah, see, there you go. See, I got you. All right, come on in. Are they coming? Yes. Easy, because we're live streaming. Because I was live on my show. I was standing right here. Girl, what you think I was doing? I did the show live I was right here. She said, how's he doing the show? Because I was here. Y'all can come in. Y'all gotta be afraid. Y'all can sit front row. Y'all can sit over here. It's all good. Ain't nobody gonna bite. Is that Congresswoman? Let me tell y'all something. Every time Congresswoman Bernice Johnson we would call her office to get her on my show, and her staff would say, oh, we have to check the Congresswoman's schedule. And I would say, I am a constituent. And then their whole tone would change. And they thought my staff was lying. They thought, oh, and then I said, no. I said, I own a home in Cedar Hill. And then, oh, she'll be on the show tomorrow. Oh, yeah, trust me. Oh, some of y'all look like, yes, I've actually owned my home here since 1999. She goes to that where they're not eating. So, yeah. Like that. Whenever the Congresswoman would come on the show, it would always be like, glad to have you here. So she's like, I definitely got to answer his questions because he's a voter. Because he's a constituent. Yeah, okay, great. All right, y'all, give it up again for retiring Congresswoman Bernice Johnson. How you doing? Good to see you. Good to see you. They're going to hand you a microphone. See the way you want to sit.
They say that
Either one. Huh?
I've had a knee replacement.
Introduction. Come on. Yeah, we were just waiting on y'all. Yeah, it's all good. We don't wait for the show to start. We go. All right, go right ahead, Doc.
Well, good evening, everyone. My name's Steve Mason. I am proud, humble to be the mayor here in the city of Cedar Hill. I'd like to welcome you. Of course, you already heard from our distinguished guest. But yes, Roland Martin is from Cedar Hill. This is his home, so we do welcome you to be here with us today.
Hold on. I'm from Houston.
Right.
We know that.
From Houston, but I've owned a home here for the last 23 years.
That's correct. I'll tell you, the first time I actually met Roland was actually on the golf course. I don't know if you remember this, but this was probably about 11 years ago. And I didn't know that he was going to be playing with me and my team. And he came out in his Houston, Texas gear. His bag was Houston, Texas. So I remember that you know where you from, where you represent.
And I hate the Cowboys.
I remember that.
Hate. Go 0-16.
But let's go ahead and give Roland Martin some love. Let's go ahead and give him love. Thank you for being here. We want to go ahead and keep this going. Of course, you see the Congresswoman is up here. She's been serving the Congressional District for 30 years. And she is here with us today. So I want to go ahead and get this started. Mr. Roland Martin, I'll go ahead and kick it over to you, sir.
All right. That's it? All right, just checking. Ain't no prayer, nothing? I'm just good. I'm just checking. I'm just checking.
Now we're going to have some questions that we're going to bring to you from the audience.
Okay, that's no problem. No problem. All right. So I'll start this way. Congresswoman, first of all, I'll ask you this here. Breaking news. President Biden has authorized the National Defense Act to allow the importing of baby formula. You are a nurse. And talk about that particular issue and him using that act to fix what is now a major crisis in this country.
Yes, it is, and I hope that his attention being given to this issue will bring about a solution. Of course, it started when there were some questions about supply and the war that's going on and the origin of different goods that had been limited. But now we know that we have got to have this formula. It has affected every family with a young child, all to the point where some parents cannot even go to work. So we'll see some relief. We are beginning to see some relief now, but we will see more and more. This is an administration that has been challenged tremendously. And I could go on about what brought us here, but I won't do that. But I will say that he does have a cabinet and leadership that's ready to do what it takes to make sure that we bring some, as quick as possible, relief to whatever the problems are. And I think you will see that relief very, very shortly.
Let's talk about COVID. Folks out here, some are wearing their masks, some are not. How many people in here have been fully vaccinated and boosted? Third booster, got it. Fourth booster. All right, let's see. Okay, all right. Now this is also a little younger crowd, so they ain't got to hit that fourth booster just yet. Look, this new variant is causing tremendous problems. I had COVID in December and then got it again 3 weeks ago. Luckily, I tested negative last 3 days, and the crazy thing is we're having a difficult time trying to get people to now accept the third booster. And some folks just say, you know what, I don't care. I'm seeing some experts say that we may have to get used to these variants, potentially people getting COVID 2 to 4 times every year.
Well, I think ultimately we're going to have to treat this virus like we do the flu, that probably every year we're going to have to get a booster. Now, we got off to a rocky start in this country because it came right at the change of administration, where you had different philosophical views. You had a change in the leadership of the health enterprise in the country as well. While one segment that's in there now, a little bit more conservative in looking at how we should protect ourselves than another. And I try very hard to be non-political when it comes to health issues. But I have had difficulty with the resistance that we see among people because this is a communicable disease. We have had a history of communicable diseases. That's why all of us had to have vaccines before we went to school. And I was a student nurse when we were dealing with polio. And being up at South Bend, Indiana, I had to go to the rural areas and give out Salk vaccines, and everybody cooperated. All you needed was one arm after another. And now you don't hear about polio. But we have not reacted in that fashion to these vaccines. And so the more we neglect the vaccine, the more opportunity it is for variants to develop, because it means that whoever you sit next to, you're not sure where they've had it. And each time it takes on another strand, it takes on a different appearance and perhaps even builds some resistance. So in our real environment of democracy, of making that choice, we have made it worse for ourselves. No one questioned whether a child had to get vaccinated to go to school, because in Texas, as a state law, they couldn't start to school until they got the vaccines. We're not that sure on this one, or at least those rules have not come down. And so we have people, I just imagine there are some of you, and you don't have to raise your hand, that don't like the fact that you have to get a vaccine and you just haven't done it. Well, what you're not aware of is that you could be a carrier. And so until we get to the point where we have just about gotten everyone protected, we will still be dealing with different forms of it. And when this is over, keep in mind, there will be others. And why? Because of climate change. In the past, we had cold winters almost everywhere in the world. And when we had those cold winters, bacteria was killed when it was freezing. Now we have mostly warm weather. And that is the environment that causes virus and other bacteria to grow.
Due to climate change.
And so we're going to see more and more. So this is not going to be the only virus we're going to deal with. But I would suggest that we read and listen closely, because we all are vulnerable.
You decided to retire after 3 decades in Washington, D.C. You could have sat this out, that the voters decided. You decided to endorse Jasmine Crockett. Why?
I'm glad you asked that question, because I was contacted by many more people that filed. And quite a few of I say most of the people that did file came to me before they did file. And I listened to all of them. I didn't find a single one I didn't like. But what I was looking for was someone who was young, well-prepared, had the energy and the interest to take chances on getting things done. And when I noticed Jasmine Crockett's energy, her preparation, her willingness to work 24 hours if it took that, then she became a person that I went to and asked her to run, because I know what this job entails.
So you asked her to run?
I asked her to run.
You talk about what the job entails. Prior to you asking her, how long did you know her?
I'd only known her about 1.5 years, and I had not noticed her that much until I was at home and they were having hearings, and I tuned into the hearings at the state level, and I noticed how quick she was to come back with questions, to ask detailed questions, details that you need to know if you're going to make a decision. I didn't see people who'd been sitting there for years asking that many questions. They had lots of witnesses. She listened to the witnesses, and I said to myself, I got to find out who this is. Because I had met her, but I'd never really had a conversation with her. And so we started to talk, and during the time of redistricting, she was on it 18 and 20 hours a day and would work on a map. And she said, I'm going to run out here to the airport, and I'm going to run up there and sit down and let you look at this, because I got to be back here by 6 for a vote. And it was that kind of energy and effort that she was willing to put into that job to make sure she was doing everything she could. And that's the kind of energy it takes to make it in Washington. You know, nobody offers you much. As a matter of fact, I don't know anything they offer you in Washington. You got to go after what you think you should be doing at home. And I know some people that stayed up there a long time. They can't tell you anything they did. I know some that stayed up there a shorter time and can't tell you anything they did. So when you work for people who don't do nothing, you don't learn how to do nothing.
Well, with that said, let's go ahead and get it started with some questions for State Rep Jasmine Crockett. Jasmine, come on out. Going. All right, good. All right. I don't want you to lose your mask now. You ain't losing the mask. All right, you mic'd up and everything. We good?
Can y'all hear me? I don't think y'all hear my mic though. Can you hear my? Oh, there we go.
We got it.
Yep.
All right, got your Delta red on.
I do.
Yeah.
And the stars are in here. Oh, here we go. Don't get Roland started. Y'all know. Y'all know. Hey, listen, my pastor back here somewhere. He got your back. There go Pastor Haynes. There you go.
Y'all know it's,
he got your back.
Y'all know it's Alpha and a Divine Eight. Y'all know that. Never forget who your daddy is.
Oh, here we go. And Daniel right there. Oh,
that's all I'm saying. All right, let's get right into it. First off, so the Congresswoman said she went to you to run. Look, Washington, D.C. is a whole different animal than Texas legislature. Legislature meets every 2 years. Congresswoman knows that well. She served in legislature. Why did you want to make that jump? Why do you want to represent this congressional district in D.C.?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for the question, and thank you everyone for being here today. You know, I don't know that it's more so a want so much as it is a responsibility. I know how I got here. I'm only the 22nd African-American woman ever elected to the Texas House. The Congresswoman is one of the first 2 African-American women elected to the Texas House 50 years ago. The reality is that we are under attack in this country. And when I say we are under attack, I'm talking about our constitutional rights. For those that believe that we're going to stop at Roe v. Wade, just keep living. That's not what it's going to be. Speaking of being under attack, we also what happened in Buffalo. The reality is that we have people that are serving in positions that, number one, a lot of them are not qualified. Let's be real about that. Number 2, we have a lot of people that are so concerned about their reelection that they won't function and work for the people. I'm tired of it. The reality is that the state of Texas led the entire country in the wrong direction. I said that we had laws that were spreading across the country like a cancer, and they were starting right here in Texas. Guess what? We just had redistricting. Do you think it's going to get any better in Texas? Absolutely not. And so they own the House, they own the Senate, and they absolutely own the governor's mansion. The answer is on the federal level. And to have someone who has been an elected official for 50 years, an elected legislator for almost the entire 50 years, call me as a freshman. First of all, I thought I was being punked. I'm gonna just tell you that. I was like, where are the cameras? But that means a lot to me because she did know a lot of people in this race. She knows my opponent very well. But she chose me, and so to me, it's a responsibility to my community. My community needs someone who is going to dedicate their everything to this position, and that's exactly what I'm prepared to do.
You talked about, obviously, the issues that are in Washington, D.C., but the reality is a member of Congress represents their district.
Absolutely.
What do you see as the top 2 or 3 dominant issues for this congressional district? What are its needs? What do you want to do to improve those things here in this district?
Absolutely. So first of all, the economy. And I think that that's actually across the board. I'm going to be honest. I mean, I think that when we talk to people, I want to say about 30% of the people, it was the one category that most people said, listen, we're concerned, right?
Yeah, I asked the question earlier, and that actually what was the most issue in there? The economy and education is top issue.
Absolutely. when you're going to the gas pump and you're saying, am I spending $5? In fact, I got a text like that, like, are we really paying this much for gas? The inflation. When I talk to my seniors, because I've been out to the senior homes and they tell me, listen, our rent is going up, our food bill is going up, gas is going up, but somehow my Social Security check, it ain't going up, right? And so when you deal with those working mothers, say in my South Dallas area, that are saying, listen, I do want to go back to work, but childcare is too expensive. I've got 2 or 3 children, and so I want to go back to work, but they're trying to pay me $10 an hour. Well, by the time I do that math, I may as well stay home and keep my kids. And so these are the things that we have to fix for them, and I understand that it's going to take a combination, not just the feds. You can't look at one level of government and say that they will fix everything. But that's why I'm proud. We've got a number of city elected officials here that stand with me, because it's going to take those on the city level, those on the county level, and those on the federal level staying in constant communication. Because if I'm in D.C., how am I supposed to know everything that's going on at home? I'm going to have to rely on those on the city level. They touch everybody way before we do. And they've got to tell me, listen, Rep, we need you to go get this money because this is one of the issues that we're having. And so we saw that bipartisan infrastructure bill that got passed. My biggest question was, now what y'all going to do with that money? Who y'all going to give it to now, right? Because we need to promote economic growth and prosperity right here. If we have those that are qualified, if we have those that are out of work, I don't get to say that. The Congresswoman can tell you. On the federal level, all we do is say, here's the money, right? But our city elected officials, who I'm going to call my friends, they can. They can say, this is what we're looking for as it relates to a specific contract, right? We don't need other people coming from somewhere else when we need to promote economic opportunities right here in the district.
Let's talk about housing. So when I bought my home here in 1999, first of all, 90% of this stuff wasn't here.
Oh, yeah.
I'm like, none of this stuff was here. Okay. And I remember literally the orange flags that are in the ground. There were very few homes that were in the subdivision. And so this place has exploded over the last 23 years. The question, though, is let's deal with the housing issue. In the last 3 years, I've gotten more. If you're a homeowner, have they been blowing your phone up with text messages, offering you cash for your house? Because we're in a major housing crisis. Wall Street had the toxic assets. They held onto them. They sold lots of 25,000 homes off to hedge funds. Now, major hedge fund folks are owning homes, and if you want to buy a home, you literally can't even afford it. And so what are you proposing to do to deal with the issue of housing? Because some reports suggest that we have a 2 to 3 million home deficit in this country, and people are literally paying double for rent they would if they actually own the home.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, this is the number one thing for us as well. And so for me, one of the first agencies that I thought I should start talking to is HUD. And so in talking to our soror, Secretary Fudge, you know, I was like, what are y'all seeing? What are y'all hearing? Because let me tell you what's going on in Dallas, because you're talking about the entire country, but it is exacerbated on a whole other level in Dallas. Because number one, the state of Texas is growing at a crazy high rate. We added 4 million new people in the last decade. We were the fastest growing state. That's why we ended up getting 2 new congressional seats. And so at the rate that we've got all of these businesses that are coming not only to the DFW, but all of our large urban centers, you know, we've got Elon Musk, who decided he was going to bring Tesla down to Austin. What happened? He had to bring his employees, right? And they were coming from California. And so what we're experiencing, we had a similar situation with...
Well, he didn't just bring them. He also got massive tax breaks to do so.
Don't get on your governor. Anyway.
No. I just always say that because when I hear people talk about how he is this self-built, I said, no, he ain't no self-built.
Oh, yeah.
There were billions of dollars in tax subsidies called corporate welfare. That's how he's able to do it. But I digress. Go ahead.
Yes. Just to be clear, this is one of those things that Texas does all the time. Hey, come over here. And we'll hook you up.
Yeah,
Like
tax
that's it.
incentives.
Yeah, exactly. And so, but there were people that moved. We also brought Toyota, which is right here in our area. And so we had people moving. So we have people that are selling maybe a 1,500 square foot home in California for like $1 million. Well, they'll come pay, twice as much as the asking price on, say, 2,000 square feet, because they're like, I'm still winning, right? And I'll give you cash. And so that's making it very difficult for us as well. So when I talked to Secretary Fudge and I'm talking about these things, one of the things that she told me is that this particular administration is looking at those people that are saying, listen, I've been renting this home forever. I could have bought it. The problem is I'm not making enough money to have a large enough savings so that I can make the down payment. So one of the things that they're looking at doing is putting down payments on the back end of a loan so that people can just move in right away. These people that have been paying consistently, they can do it, and that gives them an opportunity, because we all know that you can build wealth when you own something like a home. So it gives them a chance to do just that. That is something that I want to explore more. I also said that because housing is one of those #1 issues, what I want to do is I want HUD to come down to Dallas, Texas, District 30. I want to have a roundtable conversation, but I don't just want the developers. I want the people. I want the seniors. So even when I was out today, I was talking to a senior and they said, listen, they named off, I won't name off this specific senior living facility. They said you have to have $230,000 just to move in. That's a senior facility. And so we've got to talk about these things and see what additional options we have. And we obviously have to move past COVID. I think that we're still struggling, but that is making the cost of building a home go up as well.
But the housing issue is also tied to economics, because in 2013, some $23.09 billion in small business loans were given out. Black people only got $385 million. And I was very critical of the Obama administration. Trust me, the president was not happy with my questioning, and I really did not care because I had a problem with $385 million out of $23 billion. So the reality is no home, no loan, no business. And so even though people are celebrating right now the number of black women who are starting businesses, the reality is they're starting businesses, but they have half the revenue they were making than they were 7 or 8 years ago. So it's great to say you start a business, but when you have 2.6 million black-owned businesses, but 2.5 million have one employee, really we only have 100,000 businesses.
Yeah.
So the housing piece is directly tied to the economics. When you mention the contracts, what are you going to do to ensure that black people and black businesses are getting the federal contracts? Because right now, only 1.67% of all federal contracts, that's $560 billion annually, going to black people.
No, absolutely. That's a great question. So one of the things that I wanted to do as I was kind of preparing for this run is I wanted to talk to my small businesses, and I specifically wanted to talk to my contractors, because at that time we knew that the infrastructure dollars were about to flow. And what I wanted to understand...
Some 100, and I think Pete Buttigieg, I think he told me it's 160 billion that they're about to drop, or even more than that. But literally, it's multiple billions. And again, we're getting 1.67%.
Absolutely. So, when I talk to the contractors, my question was, what are the obstacles? Tell me what's going on, because I can't fix what I don't know is broken, right? And so some of the conversations that we've talked about is bonding, and that being a huge impediment for some of these contractors that are trying to. And so my deal is, and I plan to, once I get past this race that finishes in 6 days, not that I'm counting, one of the things that I want to do is have a more in-depth conversation. One of the things that I thought about is we have so many programs, right? That's what we lead in programs on the federal level. And so if there is a way for me to come up with a creative program so that we can work it out, so that some of these businesses that they're saying, no, they don't qualify for the bonding, we can get around that, right?
But bonding is one issue. The other issue is with your 8A programs, African Americans, your limit is only $9 million. But for Native Americans, the cap is $100 million. Also, we're only in it for 9 years, when if you're Native American, you can be in it for forever. Yeah. And so the reality is, for many businesses, they can't even, that $9 million simply is not enough. Right. And so that's also part of the piece. Another piece is also the pay schedule. When you're paying after 120 to 180 days, you're literally having to float your business for 4 to 6 months. If you may have a $10 million contract, but if you don't have a line of credit, you literally cannot float your business.
No, these are all things that we need to advocate for. You can't just be a representative without expressing exactly what they're going through. And one of the reasons that I'm saying once I'm done in 6 days that's going to be part of that tour is because I want to hear what District 30 is struggling with, especially my people that are here on the ground. And I want to make sure that they can tell their stories. I want to make sure that when I'm filing legislation, I'm filing it with them in mind, and I'm advocating and saying, hey, listen, this is what I'm hearing. Tell me why this why this exists in this way. What can we do to change this? Because we have to start promoting equity, and it can't just be in one area. It's got to be in education. It's got to be in housing. It's got to be in economics overall. This is why we've been so far behind in general, because we can't just fight in one specific area. We got to fight for equity across the board.
And the reason I think that's important because, go ahead. I've covered city government, state government, county government, federal government, and my experience has been, and this is no disrespect to any politician, they pass laws, but they don't actually understand the nuances of it. I have been working with CDC members over the past several years dealing with black-owned media, and so they're like, hey, we passed this for instance. They added $70 million more in the census budget, but they froze out the black-owned advertising agency, and black-owned media did not get a significant number. $1 billion is spent every year by the federal government on advertising. Black-owned media gets $51 million. It's 1% out of $1 billion. And so I've been walking CBC members through literally, this is when they do this is how they do this. This is how they create this. This is how they put this in the pathway. And so it's the nuance of the problem that a lot of members don't understand. Because they just figure, look, we did our job getting it passed. Yeah, but once it goes to the bureaucrats, that's when the whole game changes and how folks are frozen out. So I think that is crucial, listening to the actual business owners who say, no. They told you this, but this is what the reality is. And this is the case on the federal level, state, county, city level.
Absolutely. I hear you on this, and I completely understand. One of the things that the Congresswoman can tell you about is constituent services. And having people in your office that know exactly who I need to call to give me the answers. And that's one of the best things I think we've done all session long since I've been elected, is knowing who to call to go ahead and get through all the red tape and get the real answers. We don't need to say, oh, we'll call this person or call that person. I need someone who knows who we need to call and find out why there's a backlog, why this is clogged up. That is what we do every single day, especially when it comes to federal issues, whether it's those of you that are trying to figure out why is it that I'm not getting my disability, right? Like, we're the ones that have to be the advocate for the constituents, and that even includes those business constituents. We have to know what your issues are. You have to tell us and give us an opportunity to try to figure out why this isn't working in the way that it was intended to work.
Another major question I asked earlier, student loan debt. Are you going to do all you can to push this president to actually get rid of it? The White House is still sort of, we're not quite sure if we have the authority. Where do you stand on student loan debt?
I still have debt, so I'm all for getting rid of it. Listen, there's a lot of things that can be done to stimulate the economy, and we've got to figure out what those things are going to be. As we've already talked about, housing is a problem, right? If you've got somebody who has, say, $1,000 a month payment as it relates to their student loans, right, and they're trying to move into a home, but when we started talking about those people that can't save, some of them are in that category. They're very responsible. They're trying to do their part. They're trying to pay their student loans. They're trying to make sure they're taking care of their kids. And at the same time, they do want the American dream. They want to own a home. But this is one of those things that we may be able to help them out with. So I'm all for it.
All right. I'm going to open the questions. Well, in just a second, I got a few more questions I want to ask.
I got the question.
Folks have been sending text messages. They've been sending all kinds of stuff along those lines. One of the texts I got, and so if you could clarify or explain this whole issue. I've seen statements from the family of both of Jean saying they don't want you talking about their case. You did nothing. You were not involved. What actually happened with that case? What was your involvement? and why are they having that position right now?
Yeah, so I hadn't really talked about this, but long story short, the reality is that my opponent reached out to them for the purpose of, sadly enough, bringing more harm than good to an already hurting family, and making false accusations that the only reason I got the number of votes I got is because I claimed to be their lawyer. Their lawyers are Darrell Washington along with Ben Crump, two people that support me unequivocally. And when they were going through the trial, my friends know that I do a lot of criminal law as well as the civil rights stuff. And so they called me in and I would say, okay, well, this is what's going on, and just kind of explaining and being like an extra person. But I was never representing them, and I don't want anybody to think that I was going out saying that I was representing them and that's where my votes came from and that kind of stuff. And so, you know, this is just part of the ugly side of politics. What was so upsetting is that I do know this family quite well. We worked together on legislation down in Austin. I didn't even talk about that. You know, and so I'm like, this is crazy, because I actually have stuff that I could talk about. So
you were just saying you were not part of the legal team,
no.
But you're saying that you offered advice and counsel to the individuals because of your previous prior relationship.
Absolutely, that's it. Nothing more.
But you said you did work with the family. So talk. What work did you do with the family when it came to legislation in Austin? Yeah,
absolutely. So. One of the things I know all of y'all remember, because some of y'all were texting during the trial and y'all said, what's this castle, what were y'all calling it?
Castle doctrine?
I know, but they were calling it something else. But anyway, people were like, what is castle doctrine, essentially? And so I was explaining it to them because that was one of those turning points for a lot of people in that trial. They were like, wait a minute. Now she went into his home. And so actually I had to rewrite the castle doctrine, and I actually had to do it by hand because ledge counsel could not get it right. Like the way that they were writing it, it wasn't going to have the effect that I needed. I made sure that I called the judge in that case, Judge Tammy Kemp, as I was trying to rewrite it, and I said, hey, Judge, if it said this, would you have still given this instruction? And so finally, once I got it done, and she said, nope, I wouldn't have given the instruction. At that point in time, I made sure that the family testified, and this is something y'all can run tape on, but they testified. And on that day, most people don't understand that most bills, they kind of come through committee, you lay them out, and we usually don't vote on them that day. Usually they're set for a later date to vote on. And in this particular case, I had them testify, and I got that bill out of committee that same night with a 9-0 vote. Every single person, Democrat and Republican, voted for that bill. But be clear, this is the first time I say anything about that on the campaign trail, because right now, while I know that police brutality is one of those things that we will continue to have to fight for and talk about, I think that the average voter knows that that is a natural wheelhouse for me. And that is not the only thing that we'll be doing on the federal level. And so I wanted to focus on the issues that are presently plaguing the majority of us, no matter who you are. And really, it boils down to the economic issues, whether it's in contracting or whether it's in, housing or whatever it is. I mean, we had to deal with the internet. You know, I learned a lot about the internet this session, right? Because it was one of those few things that the Republicans that were in rural Texas could understand those that dealt with, say, southern sectors of urban Texas. Because many of you may not know that the internet access is completely different in certain portions of the southern sector. And when I say that, I describe it as like when I used to go over my granny house. And after a while, if you were running the water too long, it just would start to kind of just, right? Like it was hardly anything that would come out. And so like what we were experiencing in so many portions of the southern sector is basically the Wi-Fi that was like, so many people got the water on right now. And so, that was one of the things that I learned about. But rural Texas was having a similar issue. Mm-hmm. And so we were able to actually pass bipartisan legislation as it relates to that, because I'm thinking to myself, well, now I've got kids that have to learn at home, and we've got issues with the internet. So I had teachers that told me, Yeah, I caught COVID going out, taking hotspots to the kids in my school, and then I was having to educate their parents on how to use it and all those things. And I just want to say special love to the teachers. We didn't do y'all right this session. You know, we did lose teachers because they literally loved their jobs and loved the kids. And so we've always seemingly underfunded education. And I think it just went to the next level this session, sadly enough, considering how much more money we were going to need to protect our teachers.
Many folks first heard about you when you and other Democrats came to Washington, D.C., fighting voter suppression bills. That's why I first met you as well, came on the show. Your opponent has been saying that you helped the Republicans in Austin when it came to the voter suppression bill. What is your, by not voting, what is your response to that criticism or that allegation?
Listen, it's really sad because we're playing Republican-like games in a Democratic primary. That's what we're doing. We're lying because you don't have anything to say about yourself. So let me set the record straight. The Democrats that failed Texans, to the extent that we saw so many people be disenfranchised, and I know y'all read the reports about the number of people whose ballots were rejected. That was always the intent. Let me be clear. That was not by accident. This was never about voter fraud. Never was. So what happened is the only thing that we could do was break quorum, right? Because the numbers were we only had 67 Democrats. We have 150 people in the House. All right, so that means we don't have the numbers. That means there's 83 Republicans and 67 Democrats. So how do you stop such bad legislation from moving? You deny the quorum. Well, we were backstabbed. People made deals. They came back. I don't know if y'all remember that. Remember how they were like, oh, some of them went back. Well, I didn't go back because I was representing for my district when I said that I was willing to do whatever it took to stop voter suppression because I didn't care that I had a warrant out for my arrest because people died. We all know what John Lewis went through. I didn't care about that. But there were people that cared about a chairmanship, which half of y'all don't know if y'all say reps got chairmanships or not. They cared about chairmanships, vice chairmanships. There were people that were stressed about redistricting because they made threats about, oh, I'm going to mess your district up so you can't win it. So they decided to come back. So if I'm not there because I decided that I was going to stand up for my district and stay out, then no, I can't vote on a bill because I was staying out. The people that helped the Republicans were those that went back. And to try to lie is my issue. Because there are people that don't know how all of this works. There are people that just want to vote for somebody to represent them and to be real and to be honest, and to be dishonest tells me where you are in this race. If you can't win by being honest, then maybe you shouldn't have run.
We're going to take questions, so here's how we're going to, those are questions right there?
They gave me a whole thing.
I thought we had a microphone here for the questions.
They submitted them. Okay.
All right, so.
And then they gave them to me.
I don't know why they didn't give them to me. All right, let's see. Let's see, who asked this question? If you can stand up. As you know, Republicans are out for blood. How would you stand up for truth, social justice, and voting rights? Who asked the question? All right, then. What's your name? Sharon? All right. Sharon's question.
Listen, that's a great question. What most people don't understand, one of the bills that I worked the hardest on was Breonna's bill. This was all about no-knock warrants. And what we did is we did our research. We found out that in the Republican platform, there actually was language that said that we should limit the use of no-knock warrants. So ultimately, I brought Gun Owners of America together with Black Lives Matter. They were on the same page saying, listen, we're going to advocate for this. I worked with law enforcement because there were law enforcement officers that said, listen, we have lost our own going into these homes in this way where somebody just says, oh, there's drugs in there, go do a no-knock, and there are no drugs. somebody is startled. We live in the same state, remember, that has the castle doctrine, right? So what does that mean? Somebody come in your home, what can you do? You can shoot them, right? So how safe is it to have a no-knock warrant in the state of Texas? And so I was able to look at all the different pieces, and while we know that...
You can shoot them when they walk on your property. No.
Thank you for, it's the curtilage. I got you. I'm just, listen, I got you.
They step 1 foot.
But we not, listen, don't be going and shooting people.
No, I'm just,
now I'm putting on my legal hat, especially you people that's in here. Anyway, so, listen, I want to keep y'all out of all problems. But the point is, a lot of these bills, or a lot of these issues, they try to make it to where it's Democratic or Republican or it's anti-police or not. And it's not that way. A lot of these things, like I said, law enforcement is like, yo, okay, yeah, we're not really a fan of no-knocks, right? And so I was able to work on that. We also see that Tim Scott, he's the one that they usually turn to, and he's the one that's working on some. Don't do it, Roland. I'm just saying, right? But like, we got to start somewhere. And I think that the further right wing of the Republicans actually align with us on a number of things. I mean, I got my marijuana legislation out of committee in a bipartisan way because they were like, oh, that's freedom. It's growing from, it's natural, right? Like, so you have to find what is it that they claim to believe, and then make sure that you line up your bill.
Oh, yeah.
And
I have no problem working with the other side. What I don't tolerate when the folks lie. No. And the reality is, Senator Tim Scott lied. He went on Face the Nation, and he said that it was a bridge too far because Democrats were trying to defund police departments that did not pass certain laws. And he told Margaret Brennan that. My problem with Face the Nation, they didn't do their damn research. I know we in church, but I was going to cuss at least one time. and the reason that angered me is because a year earlier, Senator Tim Scott actually had in his own bill to withhold funds from police departments, and his own deputy chief of staff even said that this is the only way we're going to get them to act upon it. And the reason I don't have respect for him on this very issue is because he was very talkative in his text messages with me about the bill. Yet when I asked him and his staff about their own bill a year earlier, he's been radio silent. And I got the text messages.
You got the receipts? No,
I got the receipt. And he has not responded to me, and I've asked now 6 different times, and they will not answer it when we actually have, no, your bill said this, you said this. So the very thing that he criticized Democrats in December, he actually proposed that very thing the year earlier, but now he want to act like he can't answer the question.
No, and I feel you on this, because this is when you have to
I read the text messages. Y'all want me to.
No, but you got to find those triggers, right? You know that some of them only respond to law enforcement. You know, when we were trying to make sure that they didn't give guns to everyone in the state of Texas, I was the first one trying to call the police, like, hey, I need y'all to come talk to the other side, you know, because they're supposed to...
And most cops disagree with it, but this,
I know, but they pass it anyway.
But this is the one time they don't want to listen to cops.
Exactly. That's exactly what happened, but I was like, if they gonna listen to anybody, it ain't gonna be me. I'm gonna have to get the popo, right? And so, like, you have to know, and you have to keep these lines of communication open. You know, there are those that want to say, oh, as a civil rights lawyer, you're anti-law enforcement. It's just not true. I had law enforcement support when I ran for the State House. I have law enforcement support right now. And it normally comes from the minority portions of law enforcement, right? So we had Dallas Black Police. They supported me when I was running for the State House. We've got the Latinos Police Association that's supporting me now for this congressional run, because I know I'm going to need to call y'all, because sometimes they're just not going to listen to me. But y'all know what I'm talking about, and we're on the same page.
All right, let's see who asked this question here. How do you address the criticism that you were recently elected for office and are now running for a different one? All right, who asked that question? All right, it came from over here. All right, what's your name? Shanae. All right, don't be scared. You wrote it.
I was about to say, it's because you called her out.
It don't matter.
That's not lawful.
I'm putting a face to the question. It's all right. It's a question. All right, answer it.
Well, she was answering it for you. It's ridiculous. Listen, the reality is that I'm the only one that's ever been elected to do anything, right? And so, you know, as an elected official, it comes down to what you do, right? And so we know that I was named Freshman of the Year by at least 3 different organizations and is one of the most effective legislators in the country. And so it's not necessarily how long I'm there, it's what I've done while I've been there, because you can find a lot of people that have been there for quite some time, and you're like, what's their name? What they do? I ain't never seen them. They've been doing anything? Exactly. And so, you know, it's one of those...
Well, and also, I mean, this, and again, this is not, it's not a defense, it's just fact. Last night, Summer Lee, a sister, won the Pennsylvania 12th District, the Democratic primary, the Pennsylvania 12th, but she was also running for re-election for her state position. So she was on the ballot twice. And if anybody pays any attention to even history, the Michael Dukakis in 1988 selected Senator Lloyd Bentsen to be his vice president running mate. Lloyd Bentsen also ran for re-election as a United States senator. So while he was on the ballot as Michael Dukakis' vice president, he also was on the ballot as a United States senator from Texas. So that actually happened. So for anybody, I mean, the law allows it. Some states have a law where if you run for one office, you have to resign the other. Texas is not one of those states.
And so I did not have to resign. But I do want y'all to know that there's one person that is making real sacrifices in this race. I won and I fought to get to the State House. Many of you know I only won by 90 votes. I had to come up against all the money. I had to come up against all the endorsements. And I had 5 opponents, and we made it over the hump. I am unable to run for re-election for my seat. And so while I'm continuing to serve, and I will serve out my term, which will end in January, I had to give up my seat if I wanted to try to do this. The other thing I had to give up is I'm not allowed to practice law. After the last 16 years, the only thing that I've ever done, I'm not allowed to practice law and be a congressperson. Now, whatever consulting my opponent does, she's able to still do that. So she's not giving up very much. But I want you to know that regardless of the sacrifices, I think that we need the people that know us best and are going to fight for us. And so I believe that each and every one of you is worth whatever sacrifices I have to make sure that we have someone who is knowledgeable and is passionate about you in D.C.
And part of that is because Texas legislators are considered part-time, whereas they're full-time salaries in Congress. Where do you stand on expanding the court? All right, who asked that question? All right, is your name? Say it again. Nana? All right, where do you stand on expanding the court?
I want to expand
Supreme
it.
Court.
I know. I want to expand it. Listen.
Well, I know you know what I say the court. Everybody don't know what the court means. Ain't the basketball court 94 feet. No, the Supreme Court.
No, listen. It's interesting. Today, Congressman Mondaire Jones endorsed my candidacy, and he actually has a bill to expand the court. I am concerned. I know many of you probably watched as we saw Ketanji sit in front of those senators where they were attempting to tear her down every which way. And one of the things that they talked about was judicial activism, right? And they want to say, oh, you're not going to be a judicial activist, are you? No, I won't, right? And they asked all about her record and all that kind of stuff. Well, you were kind of lenient over here. I mean, just all kinds of ridiculousness, right? And at the end of the day, she sat there with so much grace. She persevered. And ultimately, they still voted against her, right? They did. They voted against her no matter how well-versed she was. Well, let's look back at history, okay? We had at least 2 justices who are supposedly going to weigh in on the wrong side of Roe v. Wade, who sat in front of senators going through this same process. They were specifically asked about Roe v. Wade. Y'all know that they said, oh, no, that's the law of the land. It's solid. It's good.
Stare decisis.
Right? And what happens? Well, we don't know, right? This is all speculation, Politico, put it out there. And so just thinking about how cutthroat the Republicans have been, in my opinion, There are a number of justices that ended up on the court because they decided that they were going to say, not grant President Obama his appointment. And right now, I am concerned about if there is a place in which our Supreme Court will stop. I personally don't believe that it's going to stop with Roe v. Wade. I believe that we have to be concerned about other constitutional rights. We know that we just got same-sex marriage. We just got that. Like when you compare it to Roe v. Wade. And so I think that this court has decided that they're going to play church in the court. And so I think they're trying to roll back the hands of time. And so I think that it is a time to start to be a little bit more aggressive and stop kind of playing pity pat.
Well, we also used to have, for people, again, most people have no idea about how, we used to have 9 circuit courts. There are now 13 circuit courts.
Right, we're growing.
So you have 13 circuit courts, but you haven't changed. You haven't changed 9. And the reality is, we used to actually have more than 9 justices. So that number has changed in American history. You talked about in terms of how Republicans operate. While Republicans are playing chess, Dems are playing tic-tac-toe. I think that's being generous. They are gerrymandering, changing laws. What is the counter plan for Dems to keep the integrity of our voice through voting? Who asked the question? Oh, you had the same question? Oh, so you was going to get too high.
What was I going to say?
Okay. Yeah, right. So they gave you 2 cards, you feel both out. Okay, I got you. All right. So what she want to know is, how hard are you going to fight if you were elected?
Yeah, so many
Are you going to swing?
I'm swinging. I'm always swinging. Y'all done seen them interviews about me talking about Abbott and them. You know, we're currently engaged in litigation. Myself, the Congresswoman, Sheila Jackson Lee, as well as Al Green down in Houston, the 3 African-American seats in the state of Texas. And, you know, sadly enough, we have to fight these wars on the floor.
Litigation with?
With the state of Texas.
Got it.
So, started this fight on the House floor. I had 4 redistricting lawyers that trained me up so that I can make a record, because you can't just go to court, right? You got to have a record. So a lot of the conversations that we had was me talking to the Congresswoman to make sure that I could put the things on the record that I needed to put on the record so that we could go to court. But y'all know who appoints those that sit in the courts, right? Yes, right? So we have a lot of courts in which we probably are going to struggle. And sadly enough, ultimately this stuff will most likely end up in the Supreme Court.
Right.
Where we're struggling, right? And so that's another reason to push for the expansion right now. But you know, I'm engaged in litigation. I'm going to be able to talk to my experiences specifically on the House floor about how, you know, I'm giving my documents to another freshman, but here Republican, and then they going into a back room, and then they telling me whether or not I can present my amendment. Oh, it was, and just the inconsistencies with what the chairman was telling me we were going to do, and you know, those are the things that we have to bring out. But this is why you have to have someone that understands these things, because if you don't, you just have somebody that's like a seat holder, and we need more.
Are you concerned about the ballooning federal debt? How do you think we can solve that? Who asked the question? All right, what's your name?
Mark.
Mark?
Yeah.
All right. Mark wants to know about the debt.
I'm concerned. Now, the fix, that's a whole other issue. You know, so I don't think that you fix anything with one thing, right? I don't think it's like a broad stroke and you just fix something. I think these are all multi-layered things. And so one of the things that I think we need to do is, number one, see if there's anywhere that we can trim any spending, right? That's the big question. But for me, I'm always an advocate of, is there anywhere else we can get money? Versus saying, okay, taxes. And granted, taxes are always an option. It's always on the table. But I'm going to tell you, taxes is like last for me. And so I know that there's definitely a lot of talk about the rich need to be getting taxed higher, right? And so that is an option.
Or would you repeal the Trump tax cuts that was passed by Congress?
Oh, absolutely. Anything rich.
Where they actually lowered the threshold from 43 to 39. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But figuring out, like, where are these niches where we can find some money? Another thing for me, though, I'll be honest, it's become controversial. Don't know why. And I'm sure there will be a tape edited of this. I filed a lot of marijuana legislation. We need to figure out other ways that we can make money. And so I think that that's a great option, because the idea that it's not legal, that doesn't mean it's not something that's around. We know that it's around. And so if we can make sure that what people are ingesting is cleaner, and if we're making sure that we're taxing it and we're regulating it, it's just like we talked about alcohol at some point in time, and that situation. And then we finally got past that. We need to find other streams of revenue, and I think that that's another option. Speaking
of marijuana, how will you ensure that that African Americans are participants in that when it comes to dispensaries? Because we were most impacted by marijuana laws.
Oh my gosh.
And what we have seen in Illinois, we have seen in California, where many African Americans have been frozen out. I interviewed only one sister who had a dispensary in Maryland. So here you have this multi-billion-dollar industry that black people are still in jail with marijuana laws, yet African Americans are not benefiting economically from this new economy.
Absolutely. So, but obviously, when these laws are passing, they're passing on the state level.
Right.
And so if we pass on the federal level, then we can start to say, hey, this is what the participation should look like, because it's now federal. But I can't tell another state what to do when we're not actually passing anything on the federal level, and we're only kind of just living by this memo agreement like, hey, we won't come in if your state decides that you're going to pass it. And by the way, we are going to tax it. And we're going to tell you that those people that have already been to prison, say because they were growing plants before it was legal, listen, they can't participate, right? Like the feds have placed rules on this, right? And we know that...
Which is kind of the dumbest thing, because probably they're probably more expert on the subject.
I know, right? And
I'm just saying.
And for those that are saying, you know, hey, what are we going to do with all these people that have been incarcerated and now they don't have opportunities? Well, some of them would. They would have more opportunities. But what we see is a lot of those persons and organizations that try to get into the business, they are limited and they are shut out because, once again, they want a net worth up here. You need at least $1 million or $2 million. And so it goes back to the economics of it again, and looking to say, okay, well, if it's real minority, and when I say real minority, I mean color, not just I went and added my wife to it, right? When we look at that and say, you know what, we recognize that there have been disparities, and so maybe I'm going to lower the threshold under these circumstances. And so there are things that we can work out, but we first got to get some kind of legislation on the federal level.
The question, what is your idea of African affairs as to how African Americans relate to African countries? Is this George's?
Yes,
George? All right, George asked the question. Go ahead.
Right. Listen, you know, I think that one thing we don't talk about enough is that to be a congressperson means that you literally are an international figure. We're not just limited to our districts. We're not just limited to Texas. We're not just limited to the U.S., but we actually have to have strong international relationships. We know that the stability of this world relies upon us having our allies and knowing where our friends are and promoting democratic states anywhere that we can in the world. And so it was one of those things that frustrated me, because I say we allegedly promote democracy everywhere else, but what are we doing at home? That's a whole other thing, right? But that's why I think it is important that we start at home and start to look like the democracy that we promote throughout the world. And the more democratic states that we have, the more allies that we have, the more that we start to work in other countries, the better we're going to be. And so for me, it's a matter of making sure that we're keeping those lines of communication open, especially in a place like the DFW. We know that we are completely diverse. And so the Congresswoman has had some very strong ties to many different communities that I've been able to be introduced to. And so I plan to continue to build upon relationships, not just with the African communities, but also my Asian communities and so forth.
Crypto has fallen through the floor in the past couple of weeks. Should it be regulated by the federal government?
So for me, it's a data thing. I need someone to come to me and say, because my concern was this: if crypto was going to become, say, the basis of everything that we do as far as our actual money, then you got a lot to do, because that's got to be stable, right? As it relates to what's going on right now, I can tell y'all that there's a lot of nuances about crypto that I don't understand. I mean, I'm still trying to figure out. They're talking to me about mining. It was a long conversation where I was trying to figure out what are you mining and where are you mining, right? And so I think that I want those that are experts in the field to talk to me. Tell me what all is going on. Why did the bottom fall out? What's happening? And then let's figure out how we can protect those that need to be protected.
All right. Let's see here. Most challenging part of running in this congressional race. Who asked it? All right.
Probably the last. Listen, you know, it's tough because you're trying to educate people on what is the job, what all it takes, and why I'm qualified. And at the same time, you know, people want you to deflect and deal with things that are nothing more than a distraction versus talking about the issues that matter to y'all most. And so it can be frustrating that you're constantly not focusing on what matters. I think that we've done a pretty good job of just trying to kind of keep ourselves focused on us and our race and run that race. But, you know, we've all seen it before. We've seen it time and time again where there is a front runner, and so therefore they'll say and do anything to try to gain points. So that's been the most frustrating part, especially since we are two black women. And I want to be clear that I'm not her enemy, right? Like, I'm not her enemy. The enemy are those that are going after our rights. And so to come after me and to discourage voters, I think it's just unfair to the voters. Because voters then look and they say, oh, it's politics as usual. I don't want it to be that. Because I need everybody excited about voting. I need everybody to show up in November. I need them to believe. And if they're saying, well, they're no better in the Democratic Party than the Republican Party because all they do is lie and tear people apart, then how do you encourage participation? And so that's the most frustrating thing, because I care about people being excited and wanting to vote and believing that they have someone that is going to be there and is going to fight for them, not fight against them.
All right, we got 2 minutes left. Those were all the questions that on the card. Does anyone have a question? I'll take a question from the floor. I got it. All right, so we've got a mic over here. But you can just stand up. The microphone's right here. Probably easy. Yep, there you go. Come right there.
I know what this is about.
Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. I got you. No, I want to be right here. So let's keep distance in terms of from the microphone.
My question, I guess I want to make a statement. You're part of the national debt based on 330 million people is $134,000. Everyone in this chapel owes $134,000. If you have a home, if you're 4 people in your home, and it's what's causing inflation. It's called deficit spending, and it's on page 202 of the civics book in Texas. That the civics book in Texas is 647 pages, and they only teach it for a half a semester. And that is the problem of no one knowing what country we really live in, and the Constitution is not being followed.
Well, okay. Well,
I know more about the Constitution than John Roberts.
I got you. Well, I'll tell you, right, first of all, when you don't even have requirements in schools, people even have financial literacy, that itself is a problem as well. Yes, next question. All right, so here's the deal. All the people in line, stay right there. No one else get in line, because I don't want to be all throughout the door, so we're going to stay right there. So I'll go right ahead. Question?
Mine is a community issue. The community issue that we're having all around Dallas County and Texas. Dallas is number 2 in human trafficking. And being a human trafficking survivor, I want to know, what will you do on the federal level to help our people, to help our girls? And right now, and I think you were the only one that mentioned this, Roland, was 65,000 women and girls that were being trafficked around our country, and nobody's addressing it. I want to know I'm going to ask her the same question. What are you going to do? And as a survivor that's out here in the trenches, boots on the ground, we got girls missing every single day in Dallas County, and with us being number 2, what are you going to help us to do on a federal level to help this problem? I need help. We need help as advocates. We need help as rescuers to do what we need to do, because I can't do it alone.
Got it.
And you're sitting there, just like she'll be sitting there, whoever's sitting there, I will ask them the same question.
I got you. And that's also our way about black and missing every single day on the show, because you're right. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, Tanya is an amazing advocate. If y'all do not know who she is, and she has a nonprofit. And so one of the things that I actually want to work with is, on a federal level, we definitely need to make sure that we are supporting with money, right? And so what I'm experiencing and talking to so many of my nonprofit folk, specifically in the district, is they don't know what all is available, or they don't have access to the grant writer and things like that. So advocating for the funds that you need, because it's going to take the state legislation. And I will say that Symphonia Thompson has led so many great things. I mean, most of you probably don't understand, but this session, that was one of the things we could get past, was some trafficking issues, because Texas is a leading state. And so now all these hotels where they're trafficking girls, now there will be a penalty on them if they are not training up their staff so that they can identify what trafficking looks like. And so when we're talking about it, and obviously trafficking can go across interstate lines. And so when you start to cross interstate lines, that's exactly when you end up in the federal court, okay? That's when your AUSAs can charge somebody on the federal level. And so we've got options as it relates to the criminal justice system. I've never had to try anybody as it relates to trafficking on the federal level. I'll be honest with you, the trafficking was always drugs that I specifically tried. But I've got to make sure that I stay in touch with people like you, because this is your subject matter expertise. And so I want to be clear. To be an elected official doesn't mean I know everything, number one. But what you can't do is be upset that your elected doesn't know what they don't know. But what you can do is make sure that you always communicate, and you do. Make sure that you're always communicating, and that goes for any and everybody. A lot of times we get our ideas for bills directly from you. Okay?
All right. So I'm gonna take these questions. We're gonna go to 8:40. So just be mindful. Be very precise with your question and the answer. Go.
Okay, I'll keep it simple. All right. So if elected, what committees would you be a member of?
What committees do you want to sit on if you're in Congress? I got you, bro.
Small business.
I'm the translator.
Small business and judiciary. Those are two that I really want to sit on.
Small business and judiciary. All right, cool.
Good afternoon, Congresswoman. My name is Stephen Banda, and I'm from Zambia. I'm actually a president of Pamoja Zambian Association in DFW. Believe it or not, we've been following you. And as an African people, we want to integrate and begin working with you. Look at the seats that are empty. If you tap into the African community, this place will be full. And we want to start making that subject known. How do you specifically intend to create a symbiotic relationship between us, the African people, and you, so that we can begin working together as one? Because now we are Americans. And there's a lot about America we have learned. This is now our home. We are legalized. We are in education. We are in different sectors. How do you intend, as a young Zambian woman, if I can call you, want to tap that potential and move along with us? Thanks.
You asked how to create a better alliance between African Americans and Africans in the district?
Absolutely, because there's a lot of things that we...
No. I got it.
Yes.
But that's what you want to ask.
Yes.
I don't need the explanation. I just got that. So in the district, how will you create that alliance, if you will, between Africans and African Americans?
Yeah, absolutely. So obviously there's lots of countries. If we start talking about the continent of Africa, but one of my really good friends is Sir Charles Maduka. And so for me, it's a matter of starting those groups. I want you to always be able to come to me. I want to stay in constant communication. I need to know what's going on in your home countries. I need to know what you're experiencing here. And so it's a matter of making sure that you organize and you come and you meet with appointed staff, because I need to make sure that I know what your issues are, whoever you are. If you're a teacher, if you're a retired person, I need y'all to make sure that y'all come and talk to me. I am absolutely all the way on board. Every single one of these organizations that endorsed me on the state level, you know what? They came back and they endorsed me on the federal level. You know why? Because we had already started those relationships. And while I was in office, I was continually in communication, and that's exactly what I want to do. So y'all got to make sure that y'all organize, and y'all make sure that y'all communicate. I'm here for it. I'm here to serve you, not the other way around.
Question.
Thank you. I'm Carol Harrison Lafayette, and I do a lot traveling around the state of Texas, educating and certifying citizens for mental health. So on a federal level, what can you do? What kind of laws can you implement when it comes to mental health?
Yeah, it's an excellent question. As somebody who sat on the MetroCare board, the majority of the issues that I was dealing with from MetroCare, they were state issues. In fact, I had to resign my position on the board so that I could run for the state house because we were having funding issues. Now, there is federal funding available as well, and so having those conversations, like I have a few friends that own group homes. I need to know what the struggles are. You know, I had some that say, hey, they took the pay down on this particular situation. I need to know those things so that we can make sure as it relates to federal monies, because mental health in general is still going to be a little bit more localized.
Question.
Good evening. I am Reverend Dr. Pamela Fox. I'm a licensed clinical social worker and ordained minister, member of Friendship West Baptist Church. And my question is a philosophical question. And my question is, how can you have justice on stolen land where there's been enslavement and genocide and theft?
It is philosophical. Listen, you know, it's interesting because recently I participated on a panel where they asked me to define justice. I was actually the speaker, and I was like, oh, Lord, what am I going to do with this question? And the reality is that justice looks a little different for everyone. But I personally believe that justice is not one of those things that I attain. I think it's one of those things that I have to continue to strive for. And I think that you strive for justice in every single way. And so that's why, you know, when it comes down to it, I don't just get to fight for black folk. I have to fight for justice and equity every single day. And honestly, no matter who you are, whether you're elected, whether you're planning to run for office, it's incumbent upon us in our everyday lives to continually fight for justice, whether you're a teacher, whether you're dealing in trafficking, whether you're an elected official. And so that, for me, is what justice looks like. It's not really the thing that I truly believe is attainable, especially for people that look like me.
Final question.
Good evening. You talked about wanting to sit on small business seats. I'm here representing my dad's small business, Two Partners Barbecue in South Dallas.
We all know Two Partners.
And one of the questions that I have is, in our communities and at greater Southwestern communities, we're seeing a downturn of businesses that are black-owned, minority-owned. What are some of the things that you're looking to do to help boost that economic economy in those areas?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And it's honestly one of the reasons that I want to sit on small business, because we have a ton of small businesses right here. So there's a couple of things. From a legislative perspective, I think that number one, I need to get acclimated to all the resources that are available already to those that are in small business. I need to come back to the district. I need to communicate, this is what's available to you. I need to reach out and say, hey, we've got XYZ. I think that this may be something that would be great for y'all. Are y'all interested? And try to help you out with facilitating that situation. Now, take it outside of just legislation, because as y'all know, legislation can be slow. Anti-lynching just got passed. Just want to be clear, right? But one of the things that I think is important is to have someone that is continually building relationships. And so what I want to start doing is connecting some of my larger organizations with some of my small businesses and see what kind of contracting opportunities are available and introduce them. And so if there are these opportunities, that's something that's outside of legislation. That's something that you can use just because they know you're the congresswoman calling and asking, right? Well, what that can do is promote economic growth that helps all of us in our shared district. And so I've started talking to those corporations that had already moved in. As the state rep for House District 100, Amazon moved in. I had a Walmart, as well as the 6 largest beer distributors. They're in our district, a few other people. And let me tell you, when the storm happened, I was in Austin. Lights didn't go out, everything was fine, but my phone started blowing up, and I'm a freshman lawmaker, and I don't know what to do. And I've got seniors that don't have access to water. I mean, everybody is freaking out. I call, try to figure out what I can do. I find out I'm really chopped liver as a state elected official in the middle of the winter storm. So what did I do? I called the business community. I called the beer distributors, and they said, well, Rep, we distribute beer. I said, I know, but y'all are big, so you got some water? And he said, well, Rep, we distribute beer. I was like, I know, but like, I need you to see if you have water. Well, when he called me back, he had pallets of water. He said, Rep, where do you want these pallets to go? And so he delivered them for me. They've also partnered with me so that we could actually get more people vaccinated, because sometimes you got to, spice it up a little bit. We've given away things to encourage vaccination. We've vaccinated more folk than any other state house seat because we worked with our business partners. And so I think we got to work with the large ones as well as the small ones and make sure that we connect y'all. So I think that that's something that I can do outside of just the legislation.
And also keep in mind, on the federal level, they classify small business as 500 employees. Down.
Yeah. That's a huge,
Again.
And most black.
Nearly all of ours have one employee.
Yeah.
So when you might think somebody with 400 employees, the federal government classifies them as small.
Small business, yeah.
That ain't small, but that's how they classify. That is it for us. Let me thank all of you for coming out. We appreciate you taking time out on this Wednesday. 2 more days of early voting, runoff election. This is not the only runoff race. There are other races as well, so please familiarize yourself with the other people who are on the ballot. And so please cast that ballot. As I say, I voted earlier. My parents, they worked the polls. So I got to go by. I have to skip the line. It wasn't long. And so shout out to them. They've worked in politics, run phone banks, put up signs. And so people always ask me, man, why you know so much about politics? I said, well, you ain't have a choice when they said go pass these leaflets out. So it was funny going to the poll and see the people sitting out there, passing out stuff. I was like, yeah, I remember those days. Appreciate that. Representative Crockett, thank you so very much. Congresswoman Bernice Johnson, thank you so very much. Also thank the church for hosting us as well. All the folks and all of you who are watching on the Black Star Network, we appreciate it as well. Glad to see still almost 2,000 of y'all sitting here watching. That's just on YouTube, but also on Facebook and the app. Don't forget, download the app, Apple TV, Android TV, Apple phone, Android phone, Roku, Amazon Fire, Xbox, Samsung TV as well. And of course, it's important for y'all to support us what we do when it comes to black-owned media. The reality is, look, mainstream media, they get the bulk of the advertising dollars. Out of $322 billion spent every single year, black-owned media gets 0.5 to 1% of that. And so that's one of the reasons why we also don't have black-owned media with significant capacity. And so, folks, support us. Cash App, $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. And Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com. Roland at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. And I got a message from my mama when I went to go vote. She said, yeah, your voter registration card at our house. I was like, Mama. Y'all been living in my house for like 12 years. I'm like, Mama, where our house come from?
I'm like, look, our house. I had to mess with her. She talking about our house. I said, Mama, that's my house. What's wrong with you? So I had to mess with her. So always glad to be back here in the district. And again, good to see the Congresswoman. And y'all, every time she came on my show, I'll be like, now you know I'm a constituent. But I always appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you so very much. Thank all of y'all, and y'all take care.
Thank you.